Okay, y'all. So, hey, we're back again. Welcome. It's Monday. I'm Mike. That's Wendy. It's the Marriage Shop still. And yeah, we had to just go ahead and take that down because when things start acting quirky online, generally you're about to have a crash. And so we figured better to come back to the few of y'all than let it crash on the many. So I think we're good now. So y'all just let us know in the chat and we will be on our way. So
Yeah,
where
so
were we?
hopefully you can hear us now. Shelly Wilson, thanks for jumping on in here. And Justice Smith, thanks for jumping back in here. Let us know if you can hear us and if we're loud. Hey, Tara Carroll.
Hey.
Great. Good.
Good
All
evening.
right. So, and Sabrina Griffin, thanks for joining us.
Welcome.
Yeah, we're glad you guys take some time out every week to join us. And so everything that we were saying when you could barely hear us was, it's still hot. We're still in Evans. It's been a little rainy. We had a little bit of a cold front, but it's back and we are going through it. And so as I was saying, we're going through it. Certainly that was evident by even our text. So we appreciate you guys just hanging in here with us. If you think somebody can benefit from what we share on here every week, make sure you tag them and drag them in. So
Tag 'em and drag 'em.
Yeah. So Lisa McNeil, thank you for that. She says the audio is good.
Thank you.
We appreciate you guys being on. And so we were saying that last week we talked about this time it's about me. And if you weren't on with us last week, we were really kind of picking up because you had just returned from a retreat. And so we were talking about really how working on me might help us. So you want to say anything else about that or no?
No, I mean, well, I say no as I begin to say something on it. I mean, I think the whole premise of that, in case you missed it, go and check it out. But the premise is that it's important to understand when it is about you, because we like to say it's not about me, right? It's not about me and it's not about you. I tell people that, well, sometimes it is. And there's some things that you need to do. Especially, when you're working through and we're talking about building a relationship and creating something that's going to last, then a lot of times we want to treat it as a 50-50 thing. Mm-hmm. I give a little, you give a little. I do something, you do something. Sometimes, you know what? I'm sorry to tell y'all, sometimes it's your fault. So, because you haven't done the work required to really understand yourself and how you show up the situation. So, it's just sometimes important to do the work. Sometimes it's about you. Sometimes it's about me. That's what it was about.
Yeah. And I think even with that, it's sometimes necessary to be surrounded by people who can tell you the truth about yourself, right? And so that person may not always be your spouse, because there's so much at risk when we look to each other for accountability. It makes it kind of difficult because there are things that we have to consider. So many of you know that my background is nursing, and when I first met Mike, I was a nurse at the hospital. We worked at the same hospital, and I remember that he had to have like a blood glucose test done or something, and he came up there to our unit to have it done, and I absolutely could not just stick his finger. It was the smallest little thing to do. I was doing like minor surgery as a nurse, but for whatever reason, the conflict between not wanting to inflict harm while also knowing that what I was doing was helping was still difficult to do. And that's true in our relationships and in our marriages, right? We want to help each other, but we don't want to hurt each other in the process. And that sometimes ends up happening.
Yeah. But over the years, she's worked that out.
Yes, I have.
It's like, does it require a needle, a blade, razor, whatever? I got you, right? So, like tweezers. Oh man, it's crazy with some tweezers in here. Anyway, some of y'all know what I'm talking about.
But it's the whole thing, right? It's this whole idea of, your husband. My husband's a psychologist. I could just talk to him about my problems, and maybe he could help me. Mm-hmm. But there are rules against that, and those rules are there for a reason. And so we aren't always each other's best accountability partners, and that's why it's important to surround yourself with people who, will give you godly wisdom, who will give you godly truth, and who will be honest with you in a way that maybe is not so gentle, and it might just be what you need, and that can happen at a retreat.
Yeah, and that not so gentle little word for you, a lot of times your spouse isn't the one to give it to you, because we're not in the place to receive it, right? Mm-hmm. And so sometimes you need a good friend, somebody who's close, or maybe even somebody who you don't know that well
Yeah.
that can see you and speak some truth to you.
Mhm.
Because what you gonna do, right? Like, get out my business. No, it's like, no, I see you. I get out your business, but I see you. I know what you've been through, right? And so that's important to have sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Hey KC, we're
what's
praying
up,
for
cuz?
your baby. Let us know how he does or how it went and all of that. And we'll keep praying, but keep us posted about
Yes,
what's
sir.
going on with the fam.
Yeah.
And then Eddie Reeves says marriage ain't 50-50. Sometimes it's 60-40 or a 70-30, just as long as you keep it 100.
Oh my goodness! Look at he dropping that heat early. Listen, if you're going by the Teddy Pendergrass rule of marriage, you probably gonna be you hurting, right? Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. Not talking about 20-30 ain't something 50-50 love, right? That's when somebody loves you back by Teddy Pendergrass, something like that.
Yeah, that's good.
But it ain't 50-50, y'all. Just saying. Sometimes it's 100 nothing. Right? I love Eddie's. As long as you keep 100.
Yeah.
So,
oh, good. All right. Well, thank you for that. I mean, he's a baby to us. So
I mean,
just saying.
That boy, you know how big that boy is? And he no baby. Anyway,
yeah.
That's another story.
The young man. But thanks for that update. So anyway, we're glad you guys jumped on and glad you guys came back because you never know what's going to happen around here. And if for whatever reason we drop out, as long as it's before 8 p.m., we're going to keep trying to come back.
Yeah.
And we hope that you do as well. So that's what we talked about last week. And, I often say if you missed anything that we talked about, even as we share things live in real time, we often say, oh, yeah, we talked about that, or there's a video on that, and go back and watch those videos. But we really do want you to go back and look through the topics because there may be something that's relevant to you that we might not come back around to. I mean, many of the things we talk about once or twice or 3 times, sometimes I'm feeling, I don't know, adventurous, and I'll say this is going to be part 1 of 4. We've done that a couple of times. We haven't done that in a while, so it might be time to do that.
When did you should be getting adventurous, y'all?
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Why? Because I just thought of it. I think it's great. That's why. But to that point though, I thank y'all because there have been quite a few subscribers to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So thank y'all for responding to that call. And if you want to kind of go back and see the full array, it's probably the easiest way to do it. So if you go to the Marriage Shop on YouTube, then you can go there, subscribe, and you can see like everything that we've done for the last few years. And so it's a good way if you want to binge out. Hey, just hit it. Set your thing on like auto continue or whatever it is. I forget what YouTube calls it. But it just play one after the other. You can go for a long time. There's a lot of stuff out there. Yeah.
So that's what we talked about last week. Mike doesn't really know what we're talking about this week, but I thought, we talked about, no, it's not potluck.
Oh, okay.
We talked about taking some time away to kind of, to serve yourself, right?
Yes.
But there are things that you can do together that don't require you necessarily to go to a retreat.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys know that we speak at the Weekend to Remembers presented by Family Life. And so we enjoy doing that. But sometimes you don't always have the time or the money to be able to go away to a marriage retreat or a marriage conference.
Yeah.
And so a lot of you have been asking us, when are we going to do another conference or when are we going to do a retreat? Mm-hmm. And all I can say is maybe this is a teaser, but we have something in the works. We've certainly been talking about it. But we won't be announcing that tonight. So there's no need to hang on to the end for some big announcement, but we definitely have been talking about it.
I want to know what
because we recognize that you guys, it's something that you're asking for. And if we're in the position to be able to serve you, we want to do that.
Yeah.
But if you're in the Augusta area, the Weekend to Remember is coming to Augusta the weekend of September 11th. I think it's the 9th, 10th, and 11th at the Augusta Marriott. And it's not too late for you to register. So that's in Augusta. If you're not in the Augusta area, you can just go on to, you could Google Weekend to Remember, and it'll bring up one of the, maybe, I don't know, it's 90 cities total, but one of the cities that might be close to you.
Yeah. If
that's something that you want to do to go away to come together.
And by the way, to that point, I was on the site today, and there are a lot of cities where it is half off right now. I don't know if that's site wide or not, but it's at half price in a lot of cities. So you might want to check your area and see where the closest Weekend to Remember is. If you want to go to that event, you can get 2 registrations for the price of 1, like right now.
Yeah.
And that sounds like real promoting, right? Then somebody needs to call up Family Life, tell them to cut our check.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. So that's if that's something that you're planning to do in the coming year or you want to save up for, because often we'll save up for vacations and some time away, which
Yeah.
is really important. But if you want to make that type of investment, we're just putting that information out there for
Yeah.
you. But to that point, if you don't have the money or you can't get off of work or you just don't have that kind of time and maybe you just need to figure out some way to just kind of get together but still do some work, the two of you together, then there's a way to do it.
Oh,
And so
I'm excited.
I started out today, I was like, okay, so what conversations should couples have, right? I'm always saying, we're here to start the conversation. We're just here to help you start a conversation, here to help you communicate, here to maybe help you talk about something that you had not talked about, that maybe you need to talk about, or maybe you don't want to talk about. But that's really kind of our purpose, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes there's a little bit of entertainment on the side. There's certainly a whole lot of scripture that's mixed in, but this is really about kind of giving it back to you
Mhm.
to encourage the two of you to have the marriage that you both dream of, or the one that you both hope for.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, Christmas of 2021,
Mhm.
our oldest daughter gave us a gift that we did not open.
You were like, oh my, you were admitting that in
We
front of
didn't
all these
open.
people?
She gave us a gift, and it was a really good gift.
Yeah.
And so we took a road trip. We were doing some different things, but she got us this gift. And if any of you are familiar with the Adventure Challenge, that's what she got us. And so, oh hey, always glad you guys are in. Quick is in live from the hospital.
Yeah, what's up?
Oh yeah. Thanks, Quan. I didn't even see you there. Thank you for joining us and tagging a couple of people to come in.
Yeah.
And so,
Welcome.
if you're familiar with the Adventure Challenge, you can drop some comments about it in the chat. But she got us the Adventure Challenge. So she got us the Adventure Challenge, which comes with a little Polaroid camera if you want to upcharge it, which she did, which is kind of expensive. I didn't know that till today. And she got us the Family Challenge. And so we took the Family Challenge on the road. We started out with one activity, and that's about as far as we got. But I was thinking, okay, so what is it about this Adventure Challenge, and what does it do? It also, I was reminded today, we had a meeting with some of our team for Family Life, and they were talking about the dates to remember.
Yes.
And it's like, okay,
Mhm.
Family Life also had given us some books that were like dates on a dime.
Yep.
I mean, there's all of these things, all of these resources. If you Google cheap dates out there or ways to have meaningful, inexpensive dates with your spouse, then there's a whole lot of resources out there. But anyway, she gave us this gift. We had not opened it, but I opened it today because I wanted to share it with you to encourage you, not necessarily to buy this because we haven't done it yet. So I'm not endorsing it per se, but it does definitely spark a conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
But what I'm going to start with is the question that led me down that road. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So the question is for you and for you.
Oh no, let's go.
So you might want to write this down or you could type it in. Why do you think we've lasted this long in our relationship?
Huh.
That's the question. So I'm going to say it again. We'll type it in the chat.
Oh boy.
This is your conversation starter for the week. Why do you think? So this is for you to ask your spouse. Why do you think we've lasted this long in our relationship? That's the question. It's a question starter. That's what we're going to talk about a little bit.
That is crazy because I have an answer like right now.
Okay.
Because I was at a meeting today
Mm-hmm.
and we met to talk about one thing, but we ended up going down a whole different path.
Okay.
Right. And so we ended up talking about marriage. And so I'll give you kind of the big answer to that question for me. And then I'll break it down into some smaller pieces.
Okay.
But ask one more time. Because I want to make sure I got this. Make sure you got it.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Shannon. I know that's the quick answer, right? And I'm not going to say we're not going to let you off the hook with that. It is by God's grace that most of us are in the relationship that we're in. We want you to take it a step beyond that because we believe that overarching, none of us would be where we are without God's grace and mercy, right? And provision. So thank you for that.
Yes,
but that's
indeed.
the easy way out. The question
Ask
is,
that question.
why do you think we've lasted this long in our relationship? aside from God's grace?
Well, how you going?
The
First
short
of all,
answer.
I mean, first, if I was gonna say God's grace, like Shannon's like trying to steal my
And
thunder a
Eddie
little bit,
too. It's
and
so
then
true.
but okay. So the big answer is
Mm-hmm.
because I said yes when God gave me what I asked for. Like, and some of y'all may know this part of our story, or some of you don't. But I, there was one day we were living in DC. I was living in DC at this point, still single, hadn't met Wendy yet. And one day I was exhausted with my life. I was exhausted with the people in it, the way I was living it, and I'm just like, I get home and I check my voicemails. I deleted them all, right? And because it was just like, there were women there. I didn't really. It's just like this is not for me, right? There's something else for me. And at that point, I did what my dad told me to do, like, decade earlier, which was pray for God to send you your wife. And so I thought, nah, I'm not going to do that. No, not doing it, Pops. Appreciate you, but I don't think so. I was a teenager at that point. And my thing was, I know what I like. I know what I want. I don't need to pray for that. I will find her, because if God sent me the wrong one, then right. This is where I was as a teenager. It's like, where he sent me the wrong one. Yeah. What am I going to do? No. And so one day I reached that point. Now I'm in DC, been there for a little while. And I said, God, this isn't me. I'm ready for you to send me my wife. Send her. I didn't give him any criteria, no preconditions, no descriptions, nothing. Just send her. I know who she is. And the answer will be yes. 2 weeks later, Wendy is literally escorted into my office, right? So happily ever after, right? Not so much, right? So it was Camelot. It was paradise. It was a dream. And then it became kind of a nightmare, right? Because I kind of helped to create that. And so that's where we come back around to this idea of grace, this idea that Wendy was forgiving, right? And she gave us space to heal and to grow and all that. And so that's part of the reason why we're still married and why this is still working. But way back when I asked God to send me her, he threw in some surprises, some little nuggets, things that I wouldn't even have known until much later on.
Right? Oh my goodness.
And so, I mean, the way that we vibe, right? The way that we joke together, the way that we act in situations that should be serious. And we're just like a kiki, right? And it's like, man, we're too old for this. Whatever, who cares, right? So the way that she enjoys football, the way that we communicate, the way that we vibe together, and even like how caring and nurturing she is. I had a pretty significant eye injury last week, and a couple of times she said, "Hey, do you want to do, like, you want to cover it up? I'm going to put a patch on, you want to do it?" I'm like, "Girl, what are you talking about? No, I'm good. Until it was like, nah, I don't think I'm good. And so Wendy just went in, got some stuff. I don't even know, some scissors, some sticky stuff, and next thing you know, I had an eye patch that Jack Sparrow would be jealous of. It was amazing. I should have drew stuff on it. I wasn't thinking.
That's so funny.
But she kind of took care of me in that moment. When I didn't even really, I was kind of pushing back from being taken care of. So I don't know. So that I think those are among the reasons. But we are in a place, I think, and we've been this way for a long time, where if we were just able to go off on some island and disappear, we probably do it, right?
Yeah.
And we'd be good with that, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does that answer the question?
I mean, it does. I mean, it's kind of a lengthy answer to the question, but I think it kind of gets at it. We've had people ask us often, and most recently at the last Weekend to Remember that we spoke at, do we ever share about how we did it? Right? How are we able to, not necessarily step by step, but what were the things that we did to be able to get past the difficult times,
Yeah.
and how are we able to sustain that
Yeah.
to this day? And as most of you said, the short answer is it is God's grace. It's
Mhm.
only God's grace that keeps us and has kept us to this point.
Yeah.
But we do really work at it. We try to find
Mhm.
ways to continue to work at it. We try to find ways to communicate better. And sometimes we get it wrong, as do many people, right?
Mhm.
So we've had our knockdown dragouts. We've had our 3 a.m. conversations. We've had days where we went 24 hours nearly, almost just kind of going at each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been hard, some of those things over the years. But when you get down to what is the thing that has kept you together, and you talk about really kind of the characteristics of your relationship, what is it about the two of you? How has God purposed the two of you, or your marriage, in the ways that He's purposed it? This is what we want you to explore and what we want you to talk about.
Yeah.
So a couple of you have been dropping some things in. So
Before we go there,
Yeah.
because there's one important piece I glossed over it, which is I think really the key piece, kind of
Yeah.
getting at what a little bit what you're going and with some of what folks are saying. When things were at their worst, it was a recommitment to focusing on God and what He was saying. Like what is His instruction to us individually? That's that whole "it's about me" part,
Yeah.
and to us as a couple.
yeah,
And that has made all the difference. And so all of the sacrifice and the surrender and even submission to people who have a word for you and being able to listen to that, and
Yeah.
submission to, like, your spouse. Like sometimes the word says submitting one to another, right?
yeah, yeah.
And so just being able to just in a moment be quiet and seek God, and it's just kept us coming together in the same space.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And so I like what you guys have been dropping some really good things in there. So Eddie Reeves said a flippant answer, and he said, if you can go back up, he said, takes too much energy to change, right? It's kind of like that cheaper to keeper type thing, right?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. And that's another song way back with
That's-
Teddy Pendergrass or Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes.
Come
right?
on now,
But-
go ahead. That's why I look at her old school.
All of those things. But then, and Tamika, thanks for joining us. Tamika,
Hey, Tamika.
says DC will do that to you, as you were kind of sharing your story.
Yeah.
But then Eddie came back and said, more extensive answer: God matured me steadily so that at every difficult milestone, I had grown enough to subsume any ego and persevere. That's really, really deep. I mean, we could take a whole weekend to unpack that. I mean, that's the kind of conversations that we're talking about,
Humility.
that men can have with men, that women
Yes.
can have with women. So really good. Thank you for sharing that. Lady T says, we need to do like a study on our book, right? And we can do that. There's actually a Win Book Club. So if you haven't joined that already and you guys have read our book, those of you that we sent them to, we want to hear from you and hear what you thought about it. Because certainly we go in a little bit more specific and a little deeper on our relationship and how we got here.
Sure.
But yeah, we could probably do some kind of guided study or drop some nuggets in there. So thank you for that. Lisa says, we made the D word or dirty word in our marriage very early on. And I've heard a lot of people say that divorce is not an option. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's really helpful, because sometimes the example that we have is that divorce is an option, and divorce is an option for people who aren't even married yet.
Yeah. So it is really important to say this. Like divorce, once you are married, divorce can't be an option. Now, there are some cases where the Bible and the word really kind of gives room for you to step out of that marriage, right? Abandonment, abuse, things like that. But divorce just can't be an option on the table just because we disagree. And, this whole idea of irreconcilable differences. Well, differences are just what they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't even have to reconcile those differences in order to have a happy marriage. I want y'all to let that marinate for a little while, right? Everything that you have differences on doesn't have to be worked out, because this is not about working out your differences. ultimately it's about grace. But anyway, but that's another story. We'll go there deep on another night.
Yeah, I mean, differences can be a really good thing. So I love that Justice says we know they'll have to do it, but we've already began praying for our children's spouses. Different subject for another day.
Wow.
And in fact, we've talked about that a little bit in the past as we ran down all those old videos for you. We talked about specifically that, right? You know, in preparation and what we're asking for and what we're seeking God for our children in their marriages, and also what we're modeling in our own. And so, yeah. So Trey Penn, hey, thanks for joining us again. Eddie says, once you make up your mind that you are there for good, you have to work everything out. And I'm glad that you dropped that in there, because it kind of many of us have experienced or witnessed relationships where people stayed together for the sake of staying together.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily that they worked it out. They just decided that we're just not going to separate, right? And so we're staying together, but we're miserable together.
Yeah. So the answer to why you're together, because we have to, I mean, I guess it's an answer, but there is so much more. There's something that's so much deeper, and so much richer in that, right? Because a lot of times people will say they decided, you know what? Not only will we agree to disagree, but we're just not going to talk. Not about it. We're not going to talk about anything. Yeah. We're just going to exist and go through the motions.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Not ideal.
Yeah.
Not ideal. And that's, you know, what we hope and pray for you is that you thrive in your marriage, that, you know, it doesn't have to be flawless. It certainly can't be perfect. And it doesn't mean that every day is the happiest day of your life, but we want you to be able to thrive in it, not just survive it. Right. And so there are tools that can get you through. And certainly you can commit to, we're going to stay in this no matter what. But we really hope and pray that you're able to work through some of those challenges or find resources to help you work through them, so that you enjoy being with each other, so that the relationship, this most important relationship that you have, gives you everything that you need to thrive and prosper as an individual, and of course, in your purpose as a couple.
Yeah.
So so you've been dropping some stuff in there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lady T. I'm seeing all of the wisdom that you're dropping. Grandpa Hobson. All right. Thank you for joining us. This says, in the bad times, try to remember the good times. Yeah, that's a really good one. And we've had some experiences with that too. I don't want to miss that Eddie Reeves dropped in there that Johnny Taylor was the one that wrote Cheaper to Keeper, Dallas's own.
Eddie Reeves would know, right?
I love that.
From the jump.
I love that. Oh, and we're also praying for everyone in Dallas. We saw that you guys had more than 10 inches of rain overnight. Floods everywhere. So all of our friends out there in Dallas, just know that we're praying for you.
Yes,
we're praying for each of you that are on today. So yes, too many comments to keep up with. We're glad you guys are dropping them all in. And so, you know, when we talk about, again, going back, right? Don't forget the question that I asked. And the question was, why do you think we've lasted this long in our relationship? That's the question that I want you to have a conversation about this week. And perhaps maybe you answer it for yourself, each of you, and then you come together and you talk about it. Because undoubtedly, maybe it's the same. Maybe there are similar reasons, but maybe there's something different. And so the reason why we came together is not the reason why we stayed together. And it's certainly not the reason why we're together now. As we kind of dissect what we've done in it, right? And so if it came down to what I own, what I've done, what I've committed to, and what I've decided, that's the conversation we want you to have. We know that many of us wouldn't even be here, period, if not for God.
Yeah. So are you going to answer this question?
I am going to answer the question.
Oh, cool.
I like that one too.
Go ahead. Well, which one?
Turning your cell phone off 3 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's
3 hours a day. Some of you are all right now just like, what?
Yeah.
3 hours without the cell phone?
That's really good.
It is
really
liberating.
Good.
Yeah.
We love you too, Anna Reeves. I think I'm going to see you in a couple of weeks. Always glad when you're here. And thank you for letting us know nobody could hear us. Because of you, we had to come back strong. And then thank you, Lady T, for writing that question down in the chat for all of you guys to have it. So in terms of, you know, answering that question, why do I think we've lasted this long? I think it is because it's kind of like I always kind of equate it to when you're having an argument with somebody. You know how when you're dating or when you're young and you're on the phone and you get mad at each other, and it's like, everybody's quiet and you just quiet for a long time, but nobody wants to hang up.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I mean, I'm not gonna hang up. You hang up. That can be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, right? But it's this whole thing about I really want to hang up on you right now, but there's something keeping me from doing it.
Mhm.
And what's keeping me from doing it is that I enjoy you more than in the moment I'm mad at you, right? I might be angry. You might have upset me. For those of y'all from DC, you might have pissed me off. You might have done whatever. I know that's terrible. You might have done something that just has me so I just want to choke you right now. But the truth is there isn't anywhere I'd rather be. So even at your worst, I still want to be near you. I still want to share my time, my space, my ups, my downs, my joys, my pains with you. And so, no, I didn't want to be the one to hang up the phone, even though I wanted to hang up. And so it sounds like I'm saying two different things, but at the most critical point in our lives, in our marriage, in our relationship, it was a question of, had there been more good than bad?
Yeah.
Did I believe that there would be more good than bad? Did I believe that you were telling me the truth? Did I believe your heart? Did I believe your words? Yeah. All of those things. And it was like, you know what? I'm not going to hang up.
Well, wait. See, I shouldn't have asked that question. Y'all, I shouldn't ask that question.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I don't think you've ever hung up. You did throw the phone out the window that time. That was
funny.
I did. But other than that,
and I did not hang up first.
I
just threw it out the window.
That's hilarious. So, I mean, in retrospect, it's hilarious. But yeah, I mean that is that's amazing. And so I think it's important because I know that some of you all, you feel like even right now that you want to hang up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sick of this. I want to hang up on all this. I just want to. I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
What I think who's Grandpa Hobson, was that what that was? Not only being able to reflect on the good times, but be able to talk about it. Yeah. Like, this is why did you end up with this person? Why were they the one? Because that dude, that girl, they're the same person.
Yeah.
That is that same girl that you saw and you're like, wow, that same dude you saw and you're like, man, come on over here, bro. You know what I mean? It was just that, or whatever you said.
Yeah.
It's that same person.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times though, life and kids and bills and, the requirements of just survival get in the way. And so we'll find ourselves in survival mode.
Yeah.
And when you're in survival mode, it's just impossible to connect with anybody because you're in survival mode. And if you're connecting, it's for the purpose of, here, let me save you. Let me sit you on this rock. Let me jump back in here and survive. And it's important to slow down and experience each other.
Yeah. That's really good. I mean, because here's the thing. What we know to be true is that adversity reveals character, right? Yeah. It also creates purpose. Shout out to our friend Unique Mackey.
Yeah.
But it reveals character. And before we even got married, we had to deal with some adversity. And in our first year of marriage, we had to deal with like one thing after the next after the next. And like 4 major things in our first less than a year of marriage.
Yeah.
And for some people, they haven't endured that number of things in a lifetime.
Yes.
And it's certainly not in the duration of their marriage. And so having to face those things, many of us, if we've never had to deal with it, we don't know who we're going to show up as in that moment. Right. Yeah. We don't know what it's going to reveal about us, our character flaws, as it were. This whole idea of, I'm not sure how to cope with this. I'm not sure how to handle my anger. I'm not sure how to channel whatever it is that I'm feeling. And unfortunately, you're the person who is tethered. Yes. You are the one. I was talking about blast radius. The other day. Yeah. You're the one that is going to be in that blast radius because you're the person that's closest to me, the good and the bad. So yeah. What y'all got? Oh my goodness. So it says, yes, I want to walk away, but the minute there is separation, I want to go right back. Yeah,
Hmm.
thank you for that, Shelly. I mean, I think that's really kind of heartfelt and transparent,
Yeah.
right? It is. It's like, ah,
Yeah.
but you kind of cute though. Or whatever it is, right? Whatever it is. Hey, Rel, she says, I try to remember the very essence of his spirit, even when I'm mad. I know at his core, no matter what we're going through, he isn't malicious, nor am I. So through tension, so though tension may be thick, I know we can endure it. And that's
Mm,
so
good.
important. And what I want to encourage you to do is to say that to him, right? This
Yeah.
is as you answer these questions, how beautiful is that to be able to share,
Yeah.
right? That despite who you're being right now, I mean, how many of us have said, who are you? Right? I don't know who this is. I don't know who I'm seeing.
Yeah.
To be able to see through that and be able to love their heart, their true heart, and their spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be able to, Wendy came home with this thing one one time. I was like, whatever, but it was about basically assuming that this person had that their motives are pure or good. What was there was like
Yeah.
there was a phrase that you had for that.
Yeah, it was actually, I mean, I think you're talking about when my sister shared that with me,
Mhm.
that before we say anything, just kind of prefacing it with, I know that, he's not trying to whatever, right?
Mhm.
I know that you're not trying to hurt me. You're not trying to make me angry. You're not trying to make me feel a certain way.
Mhm.
But by what you're saying, it may do that. But I
Yeah.
have to remember that before you ever say a word, I just have to pause first
Yes.
and remind myself that, as Rella said, that you're not malicious, contentious,
Yes.
that you're not, trying to anger me or bring me to ire, as they say. So
Oh, bring me to ire. It's like, ooh,
yeah. I've been doing crosswords, y'all. Crosswords.
That is
So
a-
yeah.
Thank you, Eddie. Like the presumption of goodwill. It's
Yeah.
like it's funny. My dad and I we fished on this lake. Actually, I took Wendy there just recently.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Lake George, second biggest lake in Florida.
Yeah.
It's big, wide open, flat, only 10 feet deep at its maximum depth. Right, beautiful. When the sun is high or the sun is setting or rising,
Mm-hmm.
placid. It's amazing.
Really nice.
Really nice. But when a storm blows across there, oh my God, you would believe that you were on the ocean. I mean, literally. I've lost equipment that's bounced all out the boat. My dad's been holding on like, oh no, I don't think we're gonna make it. I'm like, man, say a prayer. We good. It's ugly. It is scary. And actually a hurricane went through there not, like some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It blew down houses. It had big old 50, 60-foot yachts up on shore. It was nasty.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's kind of what it can feel like in a relationship. This person who is, they're amazing and they're so kind and they're everything. And then all of a sudden the clouds roll in, something goes wrong. And that same person, it's a rough ride, right?
Yeah.
It's ugly and it doesn't, and the words you're hearing are not what you're used to hearing. And the attitude and everything's changed.
Yeah.
That person, same beautiful person.
Yeah.
Right? The same person, but something's happening, right? But the crazy part is, and I hate to string together too many metaphors and parallels, but if you've ever flown on a flight, on an airplane rather, but versus flying on your own. But if you ever flown and you pop above the clouds when it's all dark and gloomy, you get above the clouds and then you remember the sun is still there. And this thing that you're going through is temporary and it's moving through. And so what do? Do you avoid it? Not all the time. Sometimes you go right in there and you do what has to be done.
Yeah.
The difference is in your relationship, you can help to clear the clouds, right? And to calm that storm. As long as you realize that beauty, right? That placid, that calm, that everything is still there.
Yeah.
And so if you want to know how do I get into this? When it's ugly, you go in being what you want to see. Right. And that would be, I'll go to Galatians, one of my favorites, chapter 5. Yeah, 22, 23.
Yes.
The fruit of the Spirit.
Yes.
Love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness,
Yeah,
gentleness, self-control.
that's good.
Right? If you want to know anything about how to, everybody always wants communication training. If you want to know anything about communicating and trying to create what you want to experience,
Yeah.
fruit of the spirit. That's it.
Yeah. I think that's really good. And I don't want to make this about a message to the men or a message to the women, but I will say, I mean, it's really kind of a word to the men, right?
Yeah.
This whole idea that you should model and you should emulate and you should assume that the posture that you want to create in the environment that is your home, right?
Yes.
The way that you walk through, the way that you demonstrate God's grace, the way that you demonstrate God's love, then permeates every relationship that we have. So not just between us, but also with our children and beyond our children, beyond our home, into the community. But it starts with the man.
That's true. You are a thermostat, so to speak. Right? You set the temperature and the tone.
Yeah.
And in that stormy weather, you are that point, because there are things when things are going crazy, what do? You got to tie down to something. So there has to be a stable point, right? And so you create that. And listen, guys, it's hard sometimes, because sometimes you don't want to. Sometimes you feel justified. You feel right? And I'm not wrong here. Why am I silent? Why am I apologizing? Why am I reaching out? Well, because that's the job.
Yeah.
I ain't come here to get into all that tonight, but that is the job. Do you want the job or not? That's not mine, actually. That's Prentice Gilbert. I think that was like the title of one of his sermons, or a message he gave during a conference. But do you want the job or not?
Yeah.
Right? Because if you say you want this job, it requires for you to be still, to stand still, right? Sometimes to sit down, always to bow down. That's what this job requires, right? If you're going to love your wife like Christ loved the church, what did he do? He gave himself up for her.
Yeah.
Right? He sacrificed to the point of death. But, because he did that, did I just say ha ha?
You did.
I don't know where that came from. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
But because he did that, he was elevated and given a name that's above every name. The sacrifice comes first. That's just what it is.
That's good.
Yeah.
And so as you were sharing that, it just, I laughed because it reminded me of the storm that we had that came through the other night.
Yeah.
And so something happened that never happens.
Yeah.
So those of you that know us, we have dogs, and as a rule, the dogs do not sleep in our bed. So years ago, we had small dogs, and I wore Mike down, and he let the dogs sleep in the bed, but they could only sleep at the foot of the bed on a blanket or on a towel. So that was the rule then. And so now they don't sleep in our bed at all. But we have one of our dogs is kind of a big dog for us. He's about 40 pounds. And we had a storm that came through, and he has the hardest time with storms. Yeah. We weren't even aware that there was a storm happening. But about 3 a.m., he was whining, he was losing it. And next thing you know, it was silent.
I had no idea any of this was happening.
About 6 a.m., Mike wakes me up. He's like, "Hey, why is there a dog laying on me?" And I'm like, I know. I don't know what happened. And our 40-pound dog was curled up in a tight ball right in Mike's lap, literally, because it was the safest place in the house to be. I totally got it. I totally understood it. And I totally loved you so much more when I saw that, because that's what the hope is, right? That, as you mentioned, if that's what the job is, then yes, you should be that safe place. You should be, you should represent the safe place, the strong tower, the protection, the thing that shields us from the storm.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are the storm. And sometimes there's going to be damage, right? Hail damage is real. I mean, things happen. Yeah. And like you said, it can get really ugly. And just because the storm has passed doesn't mean that there's not residual hurt or residual evidence. Sometimes there are remnants of what has occurred, but it doesn't mean that there's no hope. Mm-hmm. And so within that, regardless of whether or not you are the storm or you're protecting us from the storm, we have to know that the storm will pass.
Yeah. Woo, what an example. Because there was a day, y'all. But You know,
He was in
I
there.
woke up. I mean, it was a tight ball, and I'm like, what is happening? He was on top of one of my legs. I'm like, why is my leg sleeping? Why am I in pain? There's a dog in the bed. What are you doing here? So I'm like, I'm calling the dog. Like, hey. But I could feel like a little trembling, and
Yeah.
I'm like, and I knew Wendy was, she was cool. I'm like, okay. So I went back to sleep, which
Never happens.
I don't know
Trust
what's
me.
happening to me.
Never
I don't know what's happening
happens.
to me, but but I knew that was comforting to
Mhm.
Wendy, and it was comforting to the dog. It's my dog, whatever. So I just anyway, that was
Yeah,
crazy.
but when you were describing it, that's what
Yeah,
made me think of. But
yeah.
here's something that we don't talk about often, and I think this would be something that would be good, whether we do this with men or do this with women,
Mm-hmm.
is this whole idea of when you said you don't want to do it, right? Because the truth is we're all still inside, we're still little babies, we're still young boys and young girls who
Yeah,
we want to feel like, well, what about me?
yeah.
Who's going to be the one to take care of me, and who's
Right,
shielding me from the
right.
storm,
And why do
right?
I always have to be the
Right.
one? Blah blah. All
What
that.
about when it's, as
Yeah.
I call her, Hurricane Mo? What about when the women in here are going around and around, and it's like, oh, this is like what was that movie? It was like the perfect storm.
Perfect storm.
It
Yeah,
was like three storms all at the same time,
yeah.
converging in the same place. That absolutely has occurred in our home. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, where is your refuge?
Yes.
Where's your solace? Where's your support in that situation?
Yeah. Is that a question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying that as men will often ask that question.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of you may have had that question, but sure, it's a question.
Well, I want to give you like the simple packaged up answer.
Yeah.
The real answer is it's not that. Well, it's simple. It's just not always simple to execute.
Yeah.
But the real answer is you almost create your own space, right? So, a couple of things. Sometimes, if everybody's going at it in there, it's like, well, I think I'm going out to the garage and I'm gonna work on something for a little while, right? Just work on something. But what can I do to serve, to help create, a space that's maybe a little bit more comfortable? Maybe there's something that you need.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just got to know when to just hold your peace and wait and recognize that what you're seeing, if this isn't like, man, what happened? It's just like things turned on a dime.
Yeah.
Well, things will turn back as well, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just, you don't have to do anything. You just be, and it's going to be all right. But continue to accept your spouse, your wife in this case, fellas, for who she, just accept her as she is.
Yeah.
Like if she's tripping, like, girl, you tripping. You cute when you trip.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. But that's in the word, right? And this whole idea, because hey, hormones, am I right? Whether it's or in childbirth, but pre-childbirth, during childbirth, after childbirth, without kids, whatever, menopause, there's always a change.
Yes.
And so this idea that we will be constant, that the person that you met is the person that she or he will be, like literally for the rest of your lives, just isn't true. Yes, that person's in there. Yeah. Who you fell in love with will always be who you fell in love with, right? Yeah. They're always going to be that person. But how they show up every day will definitely change.
Well, I'll say this, and then I'm going to stop because, we started late. It's way past time to go, y'all. We appreciate y'all hanging in there with us. I'll simply say this. The most important thing, I believe, is to accept whoever shows up, like whoever your wife is, and I'll talk directly to the fellas. You can talk to the wives if you want, but whoever she is on that day, accept that woman that shows up, right?
Yeah.
No matter how, maybe something shifted, maybe hormones, whatever it is, you don't need to announce what it is, what you believe it is, or anything like that. Just love her and accept that woman that shows up.
Oh, wait, you might want to say that again.
Do not. I will say not. You don't need to. Do not. Don't speculate. Don't announce. Even if like, oh my goodness, it's a 10th. You know what? You have no 10th. Don't do that. All right. Trust me on this one, guys. Don't do it. Just accept whatever she needs. Hey, serve her, right? And everything will be all right after that.
Everything will be all right. That's
Yes.
so funny. Yeah. I think I think that's real. It's probably a good note to kind of move out on. But when we started, I was talking about the adventure challenge. So this is what the book looks like. I think you can see that. And this is the adventure challenge for couples. And in here, it's pretty cool, not doing a commercial for them, but on each page, there's like you scratch off a challenge. And before you scratch off the challenge, it tells you how much the challenge costs and how much time it will require.
Mm-hmm.
You scratch it off, and the requirements are that no matter what it is, that you do it, that you commit to doing it, even if you don't feel like it. I think you could create your own adventure challenge, right? When we talk about who's up for an adventure, marriage is an adventure. And so whether you buy something, whether you read something, whether you are just really kind of engaging. I like that Lawrence Butler said, continue to communicate, right? Yes. Whatever it is, put in the work. Commit to it no matter how difficult it is, no matter how dark the skies may be, how gray, whether or not there's a storm coming, just commit to keep showing up.
Ride it out, y'all. It's going to be all right.
Yeah. So that's what we've been talking about tonight. We invite you to make sure, and Lady T wrote it in the comments, make sure you spend some time around that question this week, and we'll be praying for you as you do.
Indeed. So let's pray for you right now. Heavenly Father, we just come to you tonight just thanking you for who you are. Thank you for your power and your might, your majesty, for your grace toward us, and for your example, God, of how you sent Jesus to die for us, and that sacrifice, God, what that meant and what it means for us, allowing us access to you and an example of how we are to live in marriage. So we just ask you bless each of these couples that listen, God, those who are married, those who are yet to be married, God. And we just ask that you bless their homes, their families, everything they put their hands to, God, and we'll be sure to give you the honor, the glory, and the praise. We thank you. We love you. We pray these and all blessings in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, y'all.
So until next week, have a blessed week. And if you think somebody could benefit from this, make sure you share it. Jennifer Abbott, thanks for supporting us, loving us, and praying for us. We appreciate you so much. Yes.
Boy, JC, I'm in the mood. Love. Lately I've been constantly thinking about you, babe. You drive me crazy, yeah. And girl, I want this, got me all up in my feelings. Oh, what a feeling, yeah. I knew the first time I laid eyes on you, that you would be here forever. I'm not being arrogant, and I still can't take my eyes off you, 'cause you made me better, so much better. I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime. I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime, yeah. I love your kindness, I love your confidence. Oh, you're the finest, so glad you're mine, yeah. I don't wanna be with nobody else. Give me your love, that's all the wealth I need. Baby, you're priceless to me, yeah. To love you for a lifetime, I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime, yeah. Promise I'ma be around, I'ma always hold you down. Won't you come and hold me now? I just got a new coupe, yeah, I know I got a roof, but I always keep it down with you, yeah. And I know they see, girl, you're my queen, and beauty speaks for itself loud and clear, yeah. So throw it in the air. It's the sweetest sound to follow my ear. And I want the world to know I'll love you forever. That's a long time, babe. But I got time for you, baby. I'm in the mood to love you for a lifetime. I'm in the mood to love you, yeah. For a lifetime, baby. Ooh, yeah. For a lifetime, oh, for a lifetime, yeah, yeah.